We can have everyone settled. How long is this scheduled for? This is scheduled for an hour and 15. We always hope it goes less, but there's a lot that we end up covering. For those of you, I don't think I need to use this. That's just. We have some folks calling in online right now. We got, let's say 14 other participants, and knowing half of those are AI chatbots, but welcome, computers and all. If you are in, there's a bunch of shareable links on here, and I want to make sure you all can follow along. So if you are joining us online, I'm going to put it over in the chat here again. You can click on that link and follow along. If you are in the room and want to follow along, there are some links. I have a QR code up here. I want to say, yeah, take a moment if you want to pull it up there. I'm going to check really quick to see if everyone should have got a calendar invite for this. The agenda's not in there, and I don't want to spam all your emails. So. Okay. It's probably in here. If you don't have it, take notes. Not a lot of this. Take it. Do you want to? I'm gonna introduce Christine Real. I'm gonna sit here and type some
You
stuff.
type and I'll talk, okay. So I'm standing in for Naomi, I'm the past president. And so we'll just start with the, you already called it, right, to start. I haven't done this for a while. So, call to order is at 10:18, and we are having a look at the membership meeting minutes. And the last time we met as an OTA group, which would have been back at the OTA conference at Salishan. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those, but those are, Eric, you just showed up. Those will take a first motion to approve the minutes from the last time we did this. So Chris Solario is first motion, second, anybody? All right, Ashley second. Any discussion? Anybody disagree with these folks that want to do that? No? Okay, great. All in favor of the last time we met, notes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Be really quiet now. You may say so now. All right. And then looking at today's agenda, I'm looking for somebody to approve, first motion to approve for today. I've got, sorry, Haley, in the back. And anybody for seconding?
Second.
Second, okay, shoot. He's from, Mount Hood, but you have to tell us your name.
We taken.
It's back, it's over there. Right? Eric, was it Eric or was it the man behind Eric? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was the man behind Eric. All right. So my report, the president's report, we obviously Naomi's not here, so we have that.
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion. Anybody discussing today's agenda? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Say aye. All right. Actually, that's how they were doing it at NAEOP was, those who, this way you just make noise, so. All right, there's no president's report. So election results. So these are our new folks. For District 1, we have Claudia Mendez from Plaza. We have Eric Rich from Mount Hood. Chris Solera and is from all right, and we do have vacancies. These are current. So we are for somebody that is the alum person, and we're looking for the OTA fellow, which Matt will talk about a little bit later. And unless you're an alum, if you're an alum and you're interested in that, he'll still talk about it later, but then we're still looking for that position. And then District 2, Ms. Sarah has literally moved on. And so we need to fill that vacancy. And if you want to know who's in District 2, oops. Oh, there we go. There's District 2. So these are the schools in District 2. If you are thinking, man,
Oh, there.
now can you see it?
Yeah, scroll down.
Hold on, scroll down. There you go.
You wanna describe the district
So-
it does?
A district rep is somebody that represents your district on the OTA board. So you reach out to your programs in your district, you see what's going on, what their concerns are. You have those conversations, you can bring back that to the monthly board meeting. You also go to the policy seminar, so you get to go to DC and talk about, excuse me? And it's paid for, I'm sorry. In Washington DC in March, it's the week before spring break usually. And it's paid for as a District 2 rep. So,
I'd like to nominate Haley then.
so we have Haley Mentz as, do you agree with that, Haley?
Well,
Do you want a moment? Would you like a moment on thinking about that? We'll just keep going on about the description of it.
Good. You're good.
Sure, I'm good. Okay, so we're gonna get Haley's name down on.
yeah, this requires like a vote from the board point, so we're looking for volunteers. And we'll follow up with you and maybe start as soon as next month. But
Yes,
if you're interested, District 2, same with online people, put it in chat.
yes, well, in the chat if you're interested, or if you want to nominate somebody, that's also cool. But like I said, it's only from those programs on the screen. So this person will also, represent your district when we go to talk to the representatives in Washington DC. A lot of representatives are not interested in talking to people that are not their constituents. And you have been talking to all your TRIO programs in your area all year, so you have all this great information to bring and talk to the representatives about on all your concerns and that sort of thing as far as TRIO goes for your district. So that's one of the other things you did. And then you're just on the board, so you get to have all the fun and excitement all the other board members get, all the planning and all that sort of thing. And a real great opportunity to understand how boards like this work. So that's another big piece of it. Any district reps in the past or present want to add to that? All right, so if you're interested, you don't have to step up now. And if you're from one of these schools, you can always find Matt ask more questions to any of us on the board. And Matt will keep the name, so we'll make sure we get to him. But we
Through the community works, which is for like domestic violence, sexual assault and trafficking.
Oh, that would be an excellent opportunity for your scholarship applications.
Exactly. And
To
so
put that activity on there.
and that's why I'm gonna do it. And
Matt,
Can you unmute again, Katie?
Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to have you guys add for the election results, Ashley taking over my position. Doesn't that go in there too, or not?
Look at that. Can we take a moment, Katie, being a treasurer for us is fairly involved. And Katie has served in this treasurer role. Katie Chiavarini, I may have butchered that one. Chiavarini out of Urco has been serving as a treasurer, and Ashley Aham is going to be. Yeah. Ashley's been the District 1 rep and is moving into the role.
all right. So like I said, you're thinking about the District 2 thing, but you're not sure and you want to ponder, that's fine. But just let Matt know if that's something you're even considering, that'd be great. All right, so COE 10 for 10, you just heard the big spiel in our last meeting about that from Dina. And if you right now sign up for the 10 for 10, we have that $50 gift certificate to Amazon. And so what'll happen is and we're trusting that you're just telling us that you just signed up.
We have forms right here.
And there's paper forms too. If you're not onto doing it on the computer, We have the paper forms.
I'll hand it out. Anyone want one, a paper one?
The QR is on the screen. There's also a link in the agenda, either do it on their website or download it.
I will have to say, I did sign up last week or last hour, I guess, and I did the click here for the online thing. It's pretty straightforward. COE never does anything super easy to understand when they ask for money. So you do have to kind of take a good guess as to what you're supposed to sign up for when you get to their website. Yes,
So I just want to clarify because I'm a little confused.
yes,
So this is a donation separate from our
Yes.
membership fee.
yes. Yes, COE is really good at keep asking for money. That's all they do. And so, yes, you pay your big membership fee and then they're asking for individual donations. For whatever they do at the fair ceremony.
And the memberships have restrictions on them, whereas your personal donation, they can spend it as they need it. So it gives them their extras and, they're doing some real specific student stuff now. And so, you know, with all rules and laws and government, there's restrictions, but your 10 for 10 goes into their pot and they can use it for good stuff.
And what is,
And-
sorry, this seems basic, but what is our 10? We're 10.
Yeah.
Oh, so what happens is you have to, donate up to $100. You have to donate at least $100 by the end of June. So you have to count. There's 8 months left. I like I said, just did this. And so it's like $12.50 a month. And so if you get to $100, it's the 10 for 10 because usually they start at 10 months. And so it's $10 for 10 months.
I get it.
And so, and it's always,
Just donate
or you just donate 100 right now. That also works.
Or you can do
So-
the 60.
So on this website,
Or you could do
we're
the
gonna
60.
change the 60 to 100. because it's equal.
Yeah, you want to do it one time, or if you want to do the recurring thing for 10, 15, whatever, that's fine too. Yes, it's good.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. What's the money get used for?
It gets used for things that are not restricted by membership fees. It's usually more student-oriented activities that COE provides.
Okay.
So, yeah, because the membership fees have some restrictions from somebody.
The government.
The government, is it the government? Okay. So yeah, so that's why they have these other pots of money that they use. And they do this every year. And they're encouraging you because you have a chance, it's not guaranteed, but you have a chance to do the $50, have the $50. So, you need to let Matt know, like raise your hand and say you've done this or come over and talk to him or text him, whatever you want to do.
It'll be at the very end of the
But we're
meeting.
gonna draw at the end of the meeting, so you wanna let him know if you are doing that now. So yes, we're gonna do it all in this hour. You gotta make a decision. You gotta do it. So. Oops. Let's see. So I guess we're on to handing this over to you. I'm sure they're happy not to hear me anymore. So, all right, there you go.
All right, so Katie is the treasurer on our board. Our treasurer role is very much like a accountability role. Like they don't actually manage the day-to-day finances of the organization. That's my job as executive director, but they are like checks and balances. We meet every month. So typically I just report on behalf of Katie, so they don't have to get like super in the weeds or answer questions they may not know. We try to keep this relatively simple. Back in the day, we presented on like our like budget was just separated by like the professional conference and the student conference and like board travel expenses, but that's not what actual financial statements look like when you're like a legitimate nonprofit. So if you were to click on these, it's revenue and like expenses, and that's the statement of activity, the statement of financial position. This is like your balance sheet showing assets and liabilities and equities. So all this stuff is public information. Anybody can click on here and ask questions, but we really value transparency, but I also don't want to sit here for 20 minutes and go like line item by line item through a lot of the stuff. So you are more than welcome to click through these, ask questions of myself or the board members with this information. But one thing that is maybe worth presenting on is wait, there's two of them. Current balances. So I did these as of a couple days ago because I didn't want to do it this morning. We well, our savings account actually like earns us interest now. We've gotten smart enough to like earn interest on these large balances in our bank account. So in previous years, sometimes like the interest we earned was like $10 a year. Back when rates were a little higher earlier this year, it was like $1,000 a month. So that's nice in terms of revenue generation. My job is to make sure we don't bounce any checks. So the savings earns the interest, operating is what we like spend money out of. So that's where you see them there together. There's a lot of like all these grants we bring in, whether it's the states, it's those of you who manage budgets and grants, you have to keep it all separate, right? So there's some things that are spent out of the state fund. There's some stuff spent out of our Ford Family Foundation, Collins Foundation, Marine Land from all of these small grants that do the computer and technology, like it's all tracked separately through QuickBooks. As far as you all can see, these are just the overall balances. The important part, we just heard about it with COE, what we have desperately been trying to do since we started this 3 years ago is get those unrestricted funds just in case the Oregon state decides to like change their mind or get a really tight budget one year and not want to fund us. We want to make sure we have the balances and the revenue generating services available to sustain this, hopefully for like another 2 years to see if we can get it back. In a perfect world, there's enough external funding coming, and even if the state didn't want to invest in much, we can maintain paid staff at like the state level. So that unrestricted funds, like when you all pay membership and you pay conference fees, any programs that pay for like services to us, those are the best because I don't have to spend that grant money. I would love to like maybe save some of the grant funds we get, but that's not how it works. The end of every year, you have to show how you spent every penny or you got to give it back. So all these amazing grant funds we get, it's nice, but we have to spend it. So we've been doing our best to increase that unrestricted. Our current scholarship balance, so this is for the Dirks Trio Achiever Awards that we give out every year. When we do our own auction and live auction, silent auction, all that at our conference, that is where those funds go as well. There is a link, speaking of donating money, we are not in the business of trying to beg you all or our students for personal donations, because like if we raise $5,000 from our membership, that's like unbelievable, and that's a lot of your money. But like $5,000 doesn't really move the needle that much in terms of like our whole budget. So it's just, as a board in general, we kind of like, we're not quite going there. Most nonprofits do a lot of begging for money. We kind of don't. But if you are so inclined, there's a support OTA button where you can go into our PayPal and contribute funds to the organization. You could also designate you want it to go to the student scholarship. In terms of membership, we have not had a problem for years and years. Every one of you has paid membership, despite us kind of continually increasing it. That's not going anywhere now. It's at that 0.15% of the GAN. We're not changing it for the foreseeable future, but we definitely appreciate the full buy-in. Last little piece is the budget going into 2025 has been approved by the board. So I do like showing some of this because obviously we bring in a lot of money and like, where does that go? Where does my time and Robin's time, what do we spend our time doing? A lot of it is dictated by like where the funding comes in from. So there are constantly other grants that we're getting, but the one that we know for certain going into 2025 is Ford Family Foundation. They made a 4-year commitment to us for $250,000. So we are like, we've gotten 2 of those initial payments and we're kind of in a teetering off phase, but you'll see later on all the different grants we've applied or like been awarded. The number we applied to is like 5 times that. So like almost every single week we are submitting grant applications to try to bring in more funds and spread the word about Trio. But in general, we do a pretty good job, even beyond the $500,000. Like we're able to generate a reasonable amount of revenue through the work we've been doing and your guys' contributions. In terms of how we spend our money, what you see here, these are like all of the scholarships that we get. It's last mile, and we'll kind of touch on these briefly. But this is all chunked together. Scholarships, board expenses. These are like when we meet in the summer. These are like us traveling in the States, paying for hotels so the board can come together and do longer meetings that are not just over Zoom and do strategic planning. My job as executive director is to try to fulfill our strategic plan and the goals the board give me. The board is a representation of all of you. So I can like bring ideas to the table, but I don't get to decide really what we do. That is the board's job. Like we asked, what do you do as a district rep? You just have opinions. right? You come and you tell me what to do and I do all the work. It's a great gig, so. As far as some contractor fees, so there's a, whether it's paying for like a bookkeeper to kind of help with the QuickBooks, legal fees, we decided to actually hire the Oregon Nonprofit Law Center for Law and have them actually go, we have like so many policies and procedures, not only for like the board, but for us as employees with me and Robin. And we're kind of just winging these a little bit and going off best practices. And we were like, we should spend money and invest in actually having a law firm look these over and make them airtight. The $20,000, it will probably cost nowhere near that. But we just wanted to make sure there was enough there as they provide assistance to us in the coming year. If we don't spend all that, most of that just gets dumped into scholarships because I have to spend that state money. So other contracted services. So Sandra's in this somewhere, right? Okay, she's probably out at the registration table. So we have an AmeriCorps member. Wait, the fund development manager. This is our grant writer. So he initially started as AmeriCorps Vista member with us years ago, and he's been helping me manage kind of all the grant writing stuff. He helped some of the SSS programs by doing like read-throughs and reviews, but he's just a contracted position that works like 100 hours a month for us, helping with all the grant writing and managing that and finding opportunities for us. Public policy consultants, Teresa Alonso Leon, she's a former state legislator, former chair of the House Committee on Higher Education. They redistricted and she lost, and now she has a consultant, and her timeout has ran out. So we have a former chair of the House Committee on Higher Education as a consultant with us, who provides, like, I have conversations around all the statewide legislative work I have to do, particularly the lobbying aspects that we're going to have to do going into this next long session. So we have an advocate who knows, like, was a coworker with all of these people and can help us kind of get meetings with the right people to get continued state support. She's also going to be taking the lead in terms of the programming at our student leadership conference coming up this year. As a former state legislator, we're hoping we can get all legislators, maybe get the governor. So the event we're doing in Salem, that's right across the street from the Capitol at Willamette, like, she's going to be kind of running the show in terms of what the programming looks like, and we kind of handle the background stuff. And then there is Sandra, who's not in the room, but she's our current AmeriCorps and is handling all of the social media stuff and student programming, helping with different events and those sorts of things. Office expenses, the software, this is all like I don't have an institution to pay for Zoom and Calendly and everything that you use to run organizations. We use this Monday.com because we all work remotely, so there's a bunch of administrative expenses. We have payroll, this is myself and Robin, and then program expenses, I'll get all into all these later. But invest in all of your this is all the stuff we try to invest in you all. And then last is the travel. This is for people like us to come to these conferences, send Robin to the COE conference in New York, but also you see under board travel expenses, this is to send the entire board to policy seminar in March as well. So that is definitely a perk of being on the board as well. Okay, any thoughts or questions? Just kind of, I could go way longer and I'm trying to yada yada it because I know we have limited time. Linda.
Can you stress, especially for the new folks in Trio, Oregon Trio, that we are a unicorn in terms
Yes,
of.
okay. All of this, my role, all this money, like, most regions are not even remotely close to this level of staffing, organization funding. Like maybe SAOP, who's down in like the Southeast, because they have Trio priority training grants and they've had them for years. They had an executive director for a brief amount of time, but there's literally no state, no region in the entire country that has paid staff. There's never been a state in the history of Trio, 60 years, that has had paid staff at this level. We have two and a team of people. Yeah, like no state has ever invested in Trio programs like this. So we are an absolute unicorn, and like the region and COE sometimes doesn't always entirely know what to do with us, but in a perfect world, I would love to, in 15 years, see every state have a version of this, because this is like real grassroots, like advocacy and leadership. And I can be responsive to your needs. Robin can be responsive to your needs in ways that COE just can't. There are thousands of Trio programs. It's just not feasible to be able to hear you out and understand how each of your program is so uniquely different. especially today, as you do all the programming, you sharing, you'll find that just because you're an SSS as a community college, and this one is too, you're urban versus rural, you might as well not even be talking to each other. They're different universes of how you run your program. You could still have upper bounds in rural programs, and guess what? They do a crazy summer and all Saturday workshops. You're in the schools all day every week. You basically run different programs. There's no way they can know that. Like Robin kind of knows a lot of that stuff at this point as the one who's checking in on you a lot. Like I do my best to like keep up and know that kind of stuff. So yeah, we are very unique. And I'm hoping we can sustain this for a really long time and other states can grow this model as well. Any other questions as while we're hovering on budget? Okay. Okay, 50 minutes, that's fine. Executive Director reports. If you, hopefully, you don't find it annoying, I hate listening to my voice every 2 weeks, but every 2 weeks, I send out a video if you watch it, but there's also the email. I do my best to keep everybody in the loop about all of this stuff. Worst case is if you just search for like monthly video update, like you can always find it and find all the stuff, but I'm gonna do my best to kind of cover all the things we do and keep you up to date on the things you need to know for your programs and for your students. So first and foremost is we have this calendar of events. We were trying to stop throwing so much new stuff at you because we were so excited when this was new and we wanted it to all be like one singular thing you can prepare for at the start of the academic year. So we have this document. You should be able to even like download it as a PDF that pretty much has every single scholarship, every professional development. There's more in the calendar, Rob will go over that, but it's everything we do, every event, every date, every scholarship. It's also on this calendar. You understand how to use Google Calendar. Clicking on that button lets you add our calendar to yours. If you want, as like one you can click on and off to see all of these offerings that we have. But we just want to make sure you're aware of what the options are. Whether you come or not, that's your choice. There's incentives for coming, as you'll learn in a minute. But we have our full calendar of activities. A lot of what we're trying to do, this doesn't impact you as much, but what is super sexy to the legislator, to all of our foundations who want to fund us is how do we increase the number of career grants in Oregon? So we're excited to say that there's 23 active SSS grants in Oregon. And at the July deadline, we got 30 grants submitted. So there's 7 either new institutions or folks that wrote for a second SSS grant that submitted. So hopefully we will see another influx and growth of programs. And right now, I've been working since April to basically identify every single high school in Oregon that has a reasonable amount of low-income students. It's about 200. I've chunked them into 42 unique groupings that could be 42 new talent search programs. And I've been reaching out to every single higher ed institution, community advocacy. We've been doing outreach to all the superintendents and principals. We've been using Ford Family Foundation and their contact list to spread that out. I have like a video explaining it, what Town Search is and how they can get involved and get one of these programs, maybe in their school. So this is the work we do kind of behind the scenes to meet with them and introduce them to all the grant writing and training we're going to be offering going into next year as we try to expand the number of programs in the state, which includes EOC. We only have the one right now at Rowe, but there are a bunch of folks who are interested. So nothing makes my job easier than when more TRIO grants get funded and you all keep your grants. That is probably the most important thing we do. We want to help support you both in how you run it, meeting objectives, writing grants. Because when I can go every time I go to the Oregon legislator and say, here's another $1 million coming in the state. If we had 10 talent searches, right? I know it's ambitious, but like that is, you know, another $2.5 million every year. That's 500? That's 5,000 new students served every single year. Because of your investment. Nothing makes my job easier asking for more money than when we serve more students and bring in more money that the state and our institutions don't have to pay for. So there's a lot of work and organization that goes into those. It's brutal that it all falls to the Department of Ed and those readers. Did they give us an increase in funding to make it easier to get new programs? Are the readers going to be nice and not just dock you a bunch of points unnecessarily? Like we can't control that. All we can control is the number of grants that we submit. So we're going to continue to do that work. Serving undocumented students. We're doing a call on this later in October, but we've met with Gaby Watts. We've met with everybody in serve undocumented students. Best practice they gave us was like, take it off of your form, right? We can go more into detail that. We have a whole online call to discuss it. But what I want to know is who's actually doing it. It's okay if you're not, it's your decision if you're not, but if you're doing it. I love the hands raised. I also would love even more to make sure you fill out this form that just tells me, where are you? Which trio program are you? Yes, no, or we're going to. This is mostly because folks like Zach Jones, who is a former trio director, who now works for Ford Family Foundation, they work with undocumented students at a lot of our institutions, and they want to know if one of their students is at an institution that they can actually enroll in the trio program. So it's more for our community partners to understand who's actually doing it versus not doing it. Did you have a comment at all?
No, that
Okay.
was saying.
Yeah, Haley.
Has basically a sister program where we serve undocumented students through that, so it's not for our trio funding. We still fill that out to say we're serving those students, but not from our funding.
Yeah, so the question was like, if you have a program at your institution that is already serving undocumented and they don't with trio-like services, I would still love to know it, because that basically means like you can get trio-like services at your institution. Yes.
But I would maybe separate that out under survey, because we had that program, we had a program like that. And we now are doing all trio and not that other program. We're using that other program's finances to finance the grant aid scholarships we give. Because that's one of the things we cannot do for the non-Pell eligible students with the new, with the waiver, is we can't give them grant aid. And so I would say to separate that out, because how we're doing it is a different process, a different model than just saying, yeah, a student could get trio-like services.
Thank you.
Amy, yeah.
I don't want to sidetrack, but I'm really interested in talking to any upward bound programs that are doing this, because there's some specifics and reading the requirements that I'm not sure how to handle. So I don't know if this meeting towards the end would be a place for that.
All right. I'm gonna suggest on October 24th at 3 p.m.
I don't wait that long.
And yes, you're about to go into program sharing
Yeah.
and director sharing, so like there's room. But Robin will go more into what exactly we're covering in this meeting too, because it goes beyond us talking together. We're bringing in outside folks who have worked with this population before to give us some best practices on like, how do you approach communities that typically have not been included in these services? So Sherilyn, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just one comment that Kim Jones has said that they are getting some pushback on a national level, so
Okay.
we might be prepared for that, that folks are not all on
On
board.
board, yeah.
So, yeah.
That
Your
question,
strategies are.
there's momentum from the current Department of Ed to try to make it for the pre-college programs across the whole nation, but obviously TRIO is famous for being bipartisan, and that threatens it a little bit if you start putting that. And it's unfortunate that that is part of the strategy, because we'd love to serve all students. So we don't know, and with an election year coming up, like for now, it doesn't matter with us. We can all serve all of them, and it's just separate. In the politics in Oregon, I'm fine fighting that fight where we live, and if people want to get upset, like that's more a me issue at the state level, getting state funding, but I don't think anybody's that educated on TRIO to that degree at the state legislative level. So last, I've been sending this out for a few months. If you haven't done it yet, I heard that trying to figure out some of the PERS stuff we're asking on this compensation for it is confusing. Submit whatever makes sense. I have about a little over half the programs have submitted the compensation report. We're just trying to get a sense. COE does it nationwide, but like that data is less helpful in a place that has a high cost of living. So we just want like a really specific compensation report on how all of us are being paid and what some of the benefits look like within the state. So I'm going to put together a report with the hopes that if you're at one of these institutions that just do not pay you nearly enough, that maybe this can be part of a conversation with HR to maybe reclassify and pay your staff better. It's an uphill battle, but there have been programs that have pulled this off and have absolutely livable with like beyond livable wage. They can compensate their advisors for the work they actually do and just make it a charity.
We did it, if anybody wants to talk to you.
Yep, PSU is one of those who got it negotiated. So volunteering, there's lots of ways, despite having staff, we still want to give you all chances to get involved, be a leader, be involved in a lot of things. So we are always looking for volunteers. This is where after this, you just come up to me and tell me where you want to volunteer. But if you want to be involved in our conference planning, you like this kind of stuff and want to do our state one, you can do that. If you like being a scholarship reader, whether it's the last mile or the transfer one or the Dirks Trio Achievers, We're always looking for scholarship readers. And then, as we said, board membership is a great way to just get involved, and even make sure you're, what I've heard is a lot of our board members never read my emails or watch the videos because they're like, I'm on the board, I know what's going on. And they don't always, but it's a great way to just get information and bring it to your program because you're hearing this stuff on a monthly basis. Okay, in terms of direct services, these are the things that benefit your programs, your students, so I want to make sure everyone's aware of it. We still are doing some international education opportunities. We reduced the amount of funding that's invested in that. So there's basically there's 10,000 for high school students, 10,000 for college students. We basically give out funds to help with the flights. If you're pre-college, we just did a call the other week. There's a recording on our YouTube page explaining what the process is like, how your students get involved. You can talk to me, but CIEE, it's this third-party organization. They gave out $9 million in scholarships last year to low-income high school students to go abroad. Like, all of our students check that box. We sent 26 students last summer through CIEE programs. We try to pay for as many flights as we can with the $1,500. Students who win those scholarships go into a drawing, and we randomly pick some students and cover those flights. The rest just fundraise their own stuff or amazing programs like PSU, or I think Project E Plus has always come through for some students. Have found ways to help them pay some of the other costs. If you have college students, it's a $1,500 check that just goes to your student. So if they're doing an abroad program, every quarter they can just submit this form on our website. Show it here quick. Under scholar, where you find all this stuff. So study abroad. There's just a simple form you fill out as the advisor that basically verifies that they're doing a study abroad program. And then I just do a drawing every quarter, and those students get some funds to help support that experience for them. Last mile. Yes, question to that.
That's my absolute favorite thing that OTA does. I've had like
12 students go from your one high school.
from City High School. And it is probably like aside from my list of kids who get all like full scholarships, all these colleges, that's the biggest draw for my sixth graders when I like, I have 2 kids in the drill for 4 weeks last summer, 1 kid in the same part. Summer before that. And that's like the biggest like point of recruitment that like that.
Yeah.
I want to just add too, so I work with the study abroad people very closely. Last year, I think we sent 14 of our kids from Upper Bound Talent Search across the world, like two in Madrid, we had one in Germany, one in Morocco. And if you work with them, I did a whole virtual meeting. We had 21 kids log in last week online, and one of the guys, Chris Bersay, logged in and he broke it down to a presentation. I collaborated with him back and forth. And within the next day, because kids started their apps in the virtual meeting, the next day, they already started having people reach out and say to our students to say, how can we help get the app finished? Because they have a free drawing on November 1st, if you apply beforehand for the free airfare.
Wow.
Yeah, if you want, I don't want to linger too long, but it's a lot because it's another organization. It's a big application, but if you want them to go to college, guess what's a big application? So it's a good practice across the board. Last Mile Award. This is great. 126 students since we started doing this, $363,000. Feel free to clap. I never do it. Last time I checked, 124 of those 126 have either graduated or still on track to graduate. The biggest takeaway from that is like so I have the privilege, I get to call the students and let them know they want a $2,500 scholarship. It's not that much, 1 in 4 break down crying. Because these are the people that nothing has ever complained. They have so much student loan debt and have had to drop out of college, and one tiny little scholarship award gives them the motivation to finish and believe in themselves. So even if you don't do the last mile stuff, comb the earth. If you find any damn money for your kids, your students, it matters. Every single scholarship is just that little bit of motivation for them to stick with it and just finish and improve their life. So beyond what we're doing, that has been the biggest takeaway for me. sometimes like at the bond scholarship, fair, some of those awards are $500. And sometimes you're like, man, I know how much college costs. Like, what are we really doing here? It still matters, right? Linda?
I just wanted to really talk about that last mile award. It's just so amazing. A good number of my students at Portland State, they get it. And part of it is because they really have run out of all kinds of financial aid. It's just that one more term. I'm getting teary-eyed because I had a student who said if it weren't for the scholarship, I would not make it. I've used up everything. I broke my legs, so I couldn't work. And she broke down. I mean, she called me, was so excited when she got Matt's email that she got the money.
So if you're unfamiliar with it, every quarter we do this. It's trying to target those students who you have to be within 45 credits. So you're within your last year of graduating. Typically, the students, the closer you are to graduating, the higher likelihood of getting awarded, the higher your student loan debt, right? We are looking, the hardest part is you'll get 60 applicants. We have to say no to most, and they're all deserving. Reading the stories is brutal to be on that committee. It can be at times, but the students who win, it is unreal. They have just, there's just no Pell left. They've used it all. They have crazy high debt. They have 2 classes left. Like those are the students we're trying to impact. So if you working with students at the SSS level, like that's who we want. It's really like you can post it out, you can have everyone apply, but we don't want to like waste their time too. Like this works best when you know your students, you know the ones who need the most help. And those it is a bit of an involved process. You fill out this education plan, you answer 3 essays. Like it's not simple. We ask them to do a fair amount of work because we want to try to be equitable and really identify the students with need. So, yes.
Do they have to fill out a vote?
No. So like we ask for them to submit screenshots showing how much of their Pell they've used and what their student loans are. There have been students who aren't, because you have those students who are like, I'm not Pell eligible and I still have an insane amount of debts and help me. Those students have been awarded. A lot of the scholarships go to 4-year because they're just in school longer, right? Higher likelihood of using, but we've had, maybe close to 10 community college students win it. So don't think just because you're a community college that those students can't get awarded. Because a lot of times they're coming back in education. All their loan debts is from the last time they tried and they're just trying again and they have this big burden on them. So yes. Transfer support award. This is, $20,000 we give out. It's all the due dates are on that. I'm going to force you to look at our calendar. But we give money. It's the community college students transferring 4-year. It's not about GPA. We're not looking for the students who are going to be fine and could use a little extra money. It's the students that this is meant to help your objective. It's the students who totally could make it work and end up at a 4-year, but just might, or they just don't quite have enough money. Like that's the thing we're trying to identify. So you as an every SSS grant can nominate up to 5 students. I think, I'm pretty sure 5 students. So we're letting you pick who you invite to apply, right? We're trusting you all know your students, identify the ones that make sense. In terms of student programming, we're doing that recruiting incentive again. If any of your students help recruit in other students in your program, there is a simple Google form that you complete for your student. If they bring in 10 of their friends, submit it 10 times, right? You put your name and the student's name. At our conference, we're gonna do the live drawing and pick the student that wins $1,000.
I was gonna say, it's super cool. Please not look through your files and see who's, because a lot of us have friends or a lot of students have friends or family with them. And I think we had one or two students. It's just was totally out of the blue, money, amazing. So and it's a way to honor the students who are. Okay.
Yeah, so it's open now and it goes through the end of March. So if you have the students that are helping recruit, the $1,000 is money to their pockets. Yes.
Now, does it go to their institution first?
No, because it could be a 7th grader, I'm not holding that till they go to college, here's somebody.
Well, that transfer scholarship, I was gonna say too, is super cool, because it helped a lot of our students that were trying to figure out how they're gonna pay for housing. One lady was able to secure a home for her and her children to transfer to the university. There's some amazing things, because it's $2,500. And so it's to cover all those costs that are outside of financial aid. It's the moving costs, it's the getting from here to there costs. And for those of the community college, that makes a huge difference. And it really kind of opens the door for the folks that are moving and are looking at things like first and last month's rent and how am I gonna make it? Especially in a high cost of living state. So that's made a huge difference to us. Sorry about moving backwards. But yeah,
Student Leadership Conference. So last year we did it down in Southern Oregon because those programs are far away and often don't get to participate. But we're putting it back in Salem. It's January 18th. That may be a little odd or weird to you all, but all of the new state legislators that are elected get sworn in on January like 8th. And their first week is orientation. Then, oh, look at that. There's a bunch of TRIO students across the street. Come on down and learn about TRIO. And then, by the way, can you fund us again in this legislator? So it is a little politically driven as an organizational strategy. I've been working with that Teresa to kind of figure out a date that works and that they would hopefully be willing, because there may be a lot of new people. They're going to be gung ho and say yes to everything is the hope, and that we'll get a lot of participation. I'm opening the registration for that on November 1st. But it's at Willamette University, and we'll have like a timeline of stuff too, because I know you all have to actually do the logistics of getting your students there. OTA fellow. So there's a last year we did not have one of these because we kind of had this advisory board, but we went doing that because I was like very much student programming, and we're like, you all do the student programming, so we kind of shifted the focus around. But an OTA fellow basically serves as the alumni representative on the board. But it also, this is the alumni we bring to Washington, DC with us to bring in front of all the legislators. We asked them to attend PDC with us and just do a similar thing like the Fawn Award Luncheon. Maybe they could even present. There's also an opportunity for them to take a project on. Some people in the past have presented at our state conference. Maybe it's just an online webinar where you and a couple of your friends, a lot of times these are active TRIO students. Maybe you just do a webinar where like we all can call into one of these PD sessions and just hear directly from like the go-getters TRIO participants from a few programs about what it is they like and what they don't like. And we can ask them questions directly instead of guessing around what it is they want us to do. The fellow either can be alumni from a pre-college program, but they could be an active like SSS participant as well, or just an alumni. If you just know an alumni who has graduated previously, they could also be in it. And if they complete their term, if they just participate, there's also a $1,000 stipend at the end of the year. So October 31st is the due date. We'll go to the website again. I didn't link it up here, but under students, there's an OTA fellowship. It explains it all. It gives specific dates for what the travel would be. But there's a form on here for students to apply. And then there's interview process with the hope of starting them in like December or January on our board. But if you know of any, like this is where we rely on you all. Who's that student who's just always in the office or is a go-getter that would maybe like to be more involved and learn more about TRIO. Mock trial. We've been partnered with the Oregon Bar Association. And they've been doing this unbelievable mock trial event with us the last couple of years. And we've had like decent attendance, but we know all this stuff far enough ahead of time that if you are open to getting into coming into Portland, Lewis and Clark College on March 8th and participating. So far, it's been like pre-college programs who have done it, but Linda had asked about the college students. So as soon as this conference is over, I'm going to ask them if they think it would work to have college participants too. I think so, because like Mount Hood brings a bunch of middle school students, and we've had like PSU and Chemeketa bring high school, and they kind of segment them off anyway for the sake of the mock trial. They can have multiple rooms. So I don't see any reason why they couldn't do college, but I'll announce that afterwards. But if you want to go, you basically just tell me how many students you're bringing and help us find a way to get them there. If you can find a way to get them there, we take care of everything else for you. So that's it. Cool there. We also right now have this, we've done this a few times, the video contest. If you can try to get your student, we're trying to be on social media and everything's videos now and reels and TikToks, and like I am not recording that many videos of my face. I already do too much. I would love to showcase our students and promote not just like your students, your program, but just TRIO, get TRIO in the community. We have like our Instagram page has over 800 followers of a lot of community organizations and stuff. So we would love to profile the students. So there's a link here that brings you to a Google form. The student just does a video. There's a link to like a share drive, like they're going to upload the video on the share drive, fill out the form. I just want to be able to profile student stories, have them, it's the due date is like the first Gen Day on November 8th. You can make that a part of your first Gen Day events. We'll pick one student, give them $100 Amazon gift card, and then the program from the student who wins gets an extra $100 in unallowable funds for your program to spend on whatever you want. So lastly, if you have not signed up for Canva Pro, every single grant gets one Canva Pro membership paid for by OTA. There's like this big Oregon Trio Association team. So it works best when you just have like that standard email that probably is used for applications. So that way everyone on your staff can just use it and log it. You can also just use that as your Canva account for your staff because everyone's projects will be in one place and you can work together. But there's a way on the website, that's what the link is, to sign up there. Unallowable cost funds. Every grant also has $1,000 in funds that we will spend on your behalf. That's opened already. So if you haven't contacted me, this also brings you to the form and I'll just work with your admin or director, whoever communicates, to figure out logistics of how we're going to do that. Either paying directly or just giving you some prepaid Visa cards so you can buy all the little snacks and the little stuff you want to do to support students. Last little bit, we've announced on this for a while, but we have a tutor.com partnership. So we paid the startup fee and we are basically guaranteeing that like 100 students are going to use tutor.com. So you as the programs, if you only have 8 students that use it, you only pay for the 8 students. It's $65 per student. You're only billed for the students that use it. And throughout the whole state, we're confident we can get enough students where we're going to meet the minimum. And if we don't, OTA will just eat that, because for all of you to have to pay the thousands of dollars to use a service like this, you just can't get 100 students to sign up in their new model that's 24/7, 365 and not billed by the minute. Also, if you've ever tried having tutors like cycle into the high schools, like it's the best when it works, but it's a lot of time sitting there doing nothing. And that's a ton of money you're spending on these like part-time staff to be tutors. So if you're looking for a creative solution, we tried to find a way to be like a conduit for that. Same with Clearinghouse.
Can I jump in on tutor?
Yes, please.
So, can I just see a show of hands of how many people are planning or already utilizing the tutor.com through OTA? Nice. Okay, great. So one thing Matt said was that we're only charging for the students that use it. That's not correct. It's all the students that have an active license listed,
Okay.
whether or not the student is actually using it.
That's fair.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. And then the other thing is just a heads up that Dorsey, our rep through tutor.com, is located down in Georgia and it has been really impacted by the hurricane. So she has not had a lot of internet presence. And so she wrote back to me saying things are getting better. She's got some internet now and stuff, but they're preparing for the next one. So in the meantime, while all this is happening, please just try and reach out to me and see if I can troubleshoot whatever's going on for you. And let's give her a little time to get back on track. And then I can still keep reaching out to her to get some support or try and reach out to other tutor.com people, but just please turn to me for right now while she's dealing with all that. Thanks.
Last bit is Clearinghouse. OTAs pay to get Clearinghouse access. When we paid for this, and at first, there was a login that I could share, and we could all log in. It was nice and simple. Since then, they have added a two-step verification. So we are more than, for the single search, a lot of you use the single search instead of the batch upload. You can still use the single search, but you just need to let me know you're about to log in. So we're fine sharing the login information, but I just get sent a code. I have no idea who's trying to come in. So my account got locked up. I got it unlocked. It's fine. But we just need to, I'm good about answering emails. I'm on top of it. So maybe before you try logging in, if you have it, and if you don't have this and you want to use the Clearinghouse single access, because you either don't want to pay for it or don't want to go through your institution, it's an option. We just need to kind of coordinate so you can use the single search login. Alternatively, if you are somebody who wants to do a batch upload and just have your whole student roster, I just need a spreadsheet, first name, last name, date of birth. That is it. You send me that, I can put it. We only have 5 with our paid membership that we have, okay? So we are putting these 3 dates that hopefully will periodically tap into APR dates, but October 25th, November 25th, January 1st-ish are like, if you send me your roster, those are gonna be the first 3 dates. I just upload everybody I've got and to like their batch upload, get the responses back, and then I'll just send you the responses for like your students. There's 2 more on the back end if for whatever reason you don't get to it or like panicked and would like us to help you. There's options, but it's not quite as seamless, but another just free service. If that is something that's coming out of your budget or you don't want to deal with your institution or they're not paying for it, there's an option to go through us. So
So how late at night are you up? I do clearinghouse searches, like, when it gets to API, that's gonna be.
Yeah, just, you'd be surprised, I'm not great about turning the work phone off at home. I will reply, some of you may know, I will reply to emails often just out of the blue, as soon as you send it at 8:30 at night, so. Maybe either give me a heads up ahead of time, or you can try emailing me like, Matt, are you looking at your phone? And if I say yes, then you can log in, right? Like, so, as long, we may just have to plan a bit ahead of time, but yes, it's
Okay.
a little more clunky for the single search than what we had initially assumed was gonna happen.
The single search is social security number based. Bill.
Yeah.
That or
Or
date of birth,
birthday.
you don't need it, but yeah.
And you're supposed to have, according to the clearinghouse, on file permission from the student to do that. So I make it part of my intake spot.
Yeah. Yeah, the
But I
batch,
wanna make sure,
I've heard that most people don't love using the batch because it's just errors and then you end up
yeah,
having to
You get
mess with like the last name and stuff anyway, so. I've heard the single search is better, but it's just the annoying aspect of needing. for it to log in.
way more.
And
accurate.
those group batch dates were determined based off reaching out to university registrars to check as to when they upload the fall enrollment. So that we were making sure to capture all the fall enrollment data for you.
Yeah.
Yes,
If we want to be included in that, assuming like maybe not everyone will show up on the first dates, if we send you our list, will you submit it for each of those things, or do you need separate? You know, like separate email for,
wait, say that one more time.
okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
I'm assuming like the first batch maybe catches 50% of my
Oh,
students, right? And
yeah.
But
You could try again, because we have like 5,000 lookups, right? I don't think we quite have that many in terms of AP, like we have more than that in students, but we were checking the APR. It's like if you wanna, and worst case is I just have to upgrade to the next model, which is like a couple, like $150, $200 more to upgrade to like 10,000. So if you wanna submit it multiple times, yes, by all means.
But when you're doing batch upload, that doesn't count toward your 5,000, does it? Or the
We'll
batch
find
goes
out.
to- Yeah.
Everyone give it up for Robin here. I'm gonna have her come up and talk about everything she's doing in professional development.
Hey, everyone. Okay, so you heard this morning the exciting news, of the surprise NAEOP leadership role that I'm gonna take on, so I'm very excited. I have to work on loving NAEOP as much as I love OTA, so that'll be my growth area. But I'm excited to represent OTA and NAEOP for all of us. So we've started a DEI task force. So an update to that is we have now started meeting, but we also unfortunately lost a few members of that. So if there's anybody that would like to be on that task force, please let me know. We're gonna be continuing to meet through the fall, and then the task force will determine if we have provided what we set out to do for the board, or if they want to continue into next year. So if you are interested in serving on that, at least for fall term, then please just let me know.
What do they do? I mean, what are they looking at?
Oh, so there were 4 areas. I don't think I have that pulled up. So one was to look at all of the board documents. So we're trying to take equity lens and see if all of the like board constitution, bylaws, policies and procedures, if all of that seems most appropriate. And then we also, and then we also have for CREO staff, best practices in relation to DEI. We have that for your programs as well, how to have your programs be the strongest, most equitable programs of things to consider. And then the last one is cultivating belonging. So we realized with that one, it's really incorporated into all of those other 3 as well. But then we have specific members in the task force that are looking at that, of ways to cultivate belonging within DEI for all of our policies, staff, students, you know, just having that aspect. So I think those are the 4.
So the task force is going to look at our policies and procedures before the lawyer looks at the policies and procedures.
right now.
I mean.
It's
you
a
know.
coordinated, yeah, I know.
It's gonna work all together, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
We could work on other things before we get to that part, yeah.
Okay.
And then with, oh, does somebody else have a question? Oh, at this point, we were just gonna try and do fall term. We're already into mid-October. So we'll see if that still works. So we were gonna meet, potentially every 2 to 3 weeks for like an hour or so. Try and knock some stuff out. We broke into those smaller groups so that we could focus on specific things. So that our together time meetings wouldn't be as long to go through it all together. Yeah, so just reach out if you're interested. That'd be great. Okay, so for our PD offerings, we have those monthly connection calls at 10 a.m. So I put the listing up here again. So for talent search, it's now the first Thursday. We switched talent search and upward bound this year. So talent search is the first Thursday. SSS is the second Thursday, upward bound the third, and then McNair the fourth. EOC, we only have one program. Once we expand those grants, then we'll get a connection call for all of those as well. I just wanted to highlight for our talent search, we have 11 talent search programs and over 50 staff. So this is a great time to get to connect with your peers across the state to get different ideas, best practices. I know the pre-college folks are spread out into the schools and you're much more in the schools. So not as much on the trio Zoom calls, but we'd love to have you. And I think the people that have connected on those have really enjoyed it. So we'd love to have more of that. For SSS, we have 23 grants right now and over 75 SSS staff. And we have really good attendance on those SSS calls. So that's been really fun. For upward bound, we have 15 upward bound and 2 upward bound math science with over 40 staff in Oregon. And then we have our 3 McNair programs and 6 staff, and they are forming a nice tight bond on those connection calls too. So I'm loving that. So please join us for those. And then those are all over Zoom. And then then we have the theme base. So thank you for letting me, send out all the emails. I tried to do it in rapid fire, so it was only at one time, but it didn't quite work. I think I upset Google by sending out too much at one time. So we have our technical theme. Our next one is November 19th. Once we have a topic for that, then I'll go in and update that particular one so you can see the specific topic. For the trio specific knowledge, that's that P3 implementation that we're talking about. That's October 24th. So in addition to talking as colleagues about how you're implementing it or what questions you still have about that, we also have Angelica Mendoza, who formerly worked at RCC and is now in the high school. She's a former trio student and former Ford Scholar and has worked with undocumented students and is going to help share with some student recruitment and retention ideas and efforts that we can implement as well. For advising, we already had an advising with co-fellow to talk about graduate funding and advising and opportunities for students. And our next one will be December 5th. But we also had our first technical theme, and that was with Matt doing Excel. That was really popular as well. We have financial aid, financial literacy coming up November 5th, and that's going to be with the Ford Family Foundation, preparing for the opening of their application and to have all our advisors ready to roll with the new application. And then for programming ideas, our next one is October 15th, and that is with Career Lunch to talk about the different ways we could connect through OTA and through your programs for career launch, especially with the new CPPs for SSS that came to the forefront as an idea for someone to partner with. And they also have different levels of ones that are more specific to the pre-college students, to the SSS students, and to preparing for graduate school as another next step in the career path. And then for a resource roundup, on November 21st, we got innovative educators, and they're going to be speaking specifically to the AI literacy essentials for students. It's a micro-credential program that they offer. So I know that AI stuff has been meaningful for all our trio colleagues, so we wanted to highlight that as well. And then with our DEI topics, we're going to begin those in January based on recommendations from the DEI task force. Yes, of course. Oh, way to walk right into that. Thank you. So, oh, yeah, they keep clapping, but we've got content to talk about. That was too shady. See, I really wanted this website. Okay. I've been on too long this week. Or I did the AI to learn how to, what was it? You were AI to learn how to
Oh, heckle.
heckle, yes. We had to prepare for axe throwing last night. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked now that I get to amplify my voice. I love it. Let's see. So we did the DEI starting in January. Was there any other question about all that before I move on? Okay, so, oh, you walked into the, yeah, the YouTube. So yes, Matt takes all of our recordings, because now I remember to record every time, and puts them onto the YouTube. And so you can just go to YouTube and put in Oregon Trio, or there's a link through our Oregon Trio website directly to our YouTube channel as well. And you could subscribe to it, and then you would just have easy access to that as well. Any other questions about all of the recordings? But there's also a really good reason to attend live if you can. We'll get to that shortly. Okay, so we also really want to highlight with all these themes that we would love to have OTA members present. So we've had some OTA members present here at NAEOP, and we also had some OTA members present at COE. And I would love for you to bring that back to Oregon and highlight that either in one of our Zoom topics or at our professional development conference at Sun River. So I will be reaching out. But for those of you that haven't been presenting here and you still have ideas and you would love to present or co-present as part of a topic, to not have the full 60 minutes, but to be able to contribute, I would love that as well. So as we have the different topics of like programming ideas, different technical themes, advising best practices, all that stuff. You all are the experts. Let's get you in front of everybody. And yes, and there it is. And we can pay you. So please join us. So we have stipends that we can provide for your additional time in doing that work with us as well. And let's see. We can also come join a staff meeting. So I've done that occasionally to be able to provide updates or trainings related to tutor.com or other things. But if you ever want Matt or I to come, or both of us, to come to one of your staff meetings, especially virtual, but we're also happy to travel if we can, to come support your staff and to train up on anything that you think would be valuable. We're very happy to help do that. And then a reminder that we offer the OTA Trio onboarding. So when you notify us that you have a new staff member, we add them to the listservs, to the connection calls, to all of the PD. So it's going to be a little overwhelming for them for a second when they get all that stuff. But then I also invite them to the upcoming onboarding calls so that we can get them connected to learn about all the things that OTA is doing, but then also to try and start understanding the relationship with NAEOP and COE, the option of priority trainings, all that stuff. And then our grant writing support. So Matt already talked a little bit about this, but we had fabulous time connecting with all of our SSS colleagues this past spring. And now we're excited to do it with ETS and EOC. So we have a specific workshop with Amy Verlanik, a 2-day workshop in February in Eugene. I don't know why you would go to Puerto Rico with COE when you could come to Eugene. So the perk is that it's free. That's the perk of coming to Eugene. So OTA will be paying for any grant writers and directors and other staff that you're having support that grant writing and pre-con on March 31st, so the day before our conference in Sun River. And Philip Dirks will be helping to facilitate showing us how to do a deep data dive to get the best needs section that we can, and to use all the different filters so that we can submit the strongest grants possible. And so that will be all of our current talent search folks. And then also, Matt has been reaching out and we've been meeting with, community partners, other schools, institutions, nonprofits, principals, to try and get a lot more people involved. So they will also be invited to attend both of those, opportunities and paid for by OTA as well with those state funds.
And Robin,
Yes.
that's gonna be like in a lab, like.
Right, you're gonna be on your laptop, you're gonna do your specific deep data dive
Showing.
with your support, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna actually, it's gonna be working day so that you can actually get that data and feel good moving into, what we're expecting is to be another July submission. And then with EOC, we have Janelle Cully, who is, EOC director in Idaho and also the Idaho State President. And so she's gonna be offering a virtual workshop series for OTA. And so we're gonna do two different parts. She and I are gonna connect on getting some dates going for that. And then she's also gonna come, spend time with us at, the OTA conference on March 31st. She will be participating in the data workshop as well, along with Philip. So we're gonna invite all the EOC people to that one as well. And then OTA has contracted with Janelle to also have a consultation component and help troubleshoot with all of our EOC grant writers to have a key person to be able to go to throughout that process. Yes.
Selfish question, because I've been
Yes.
in DOC.
Yeah, you get all the support, yes.
At the same time, though, like, do I need to be trying to have a counterpart? Be
Oh,
doing
no.
OTS stuff while I'm doing DOC stuff?
No, it's all gonna be right there, because the data, Philip, do you want to speak to that? It's gonna be all the same data dive, right?
It's gonna be the same use of the census.gov website in order to dive into your local neighborhoods and see what high school graduation rates, college graduation rates, college enrollment rates are, all on the census. So, I mean, if you have different areas for EOC and ES, then you gotta do two different kind of dives to get that information.
Thank you.
It's the same system.
Would that information help us to figure out if we have, reasonable population?
I mean, it's to identify the need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yes, exactly.
Are you thinking that SWAT might be interested in,
I would like to know.
so we can connect with you about that, because Matt's already done a lot of, not for that one, okay.
Yeah, they should join.
I mean, I don't know if it is.
Yeah. So we'd want to start that conversation with you earlier so that you or whoever at your institution would be in on these virtual workshops, which would begin before that
Right.
data
We
dive.
have a really robust program.
Perfect, perfect.
I know we are like at exact time.
Oh,
If you
sorry.
give us 5 minutes, we will just zip
Okay.
you up.
Okay, there's gonna be money, so just stay tuned with us. So we already talked about the YouTube. We talked about the listserv, you can just join right there on our website, but we try and get you all in as soon as we're notified about new staff. There's also the shared Google Drive. The Nexus newsletter. You can subscribe to that. We didn't want to send it to everybody if you didn't want it, so please subscribe. And feel free to send us articles that you think we should put in there, because Matt and I are doing our, data scrub, trying to find things, but if you have ideas of things you'd think our TRIO colleagues would like, please just share them. And then now you've heard about the NAEOP peer review, so we're getting ready to take that over, and so we're excited to bring that to all of you. And then we'll see you in Sun River. So we have the pre-con on the 31st, and then our conference the 1st to the 3rd. Thank you.
PD drawing,
Oh, that's under yours.
the wheel and eight, it's up on the top.
Oh,
You just want to summarize what this is.
so Matt had said if the board had agreed as well, if you attend PD, any of the professional development, including the connection calls and everything, you get entered into a drawing for $100 every month.
Not for you, $100 and unallowable. You
Yes,
can-
sorry. Oh, no. Wait, oh, we're supposed to be exciting.
I wanted to give it to you. The board told me, that's questionable. Give it to the program. So,
Blame the board.
yeah. But if every single live call you attend, your name gets on here. At the end of every month, I will spin it. I might do this live on the videos moving forward, but today it's happening right now.
And it has to be you, not your chat. box.
Yeah,
I took
the
the chat
bots are
box.
out. They do not count. I see where that was going. Nice job.
Okay, so I'll be in touch and that whether it can, whatever you want, unallowable, $100, so.
Advertisement.
I know.
Okay, I said I'd be done in the next 3 minutes. In terms of sustainable funding, this is always a question. We are going into a state legislative session in Oregon where we are being told from everybody, there's no money. Don't ask, kind of. Now you can still ask. So we still have a bill that's been sponsored by a trio alumni of ours, Representative Ruiz, that is asking continuation of the funding they've done the last 2 sessions. So there's going to be a bill in place. We're going to have opportunities to testify in the education committees, and the real work is the Ways and Means Committee. There's a lot of state government talk, but Ways and Means is like House and Senate come together and decide what to actually spend the money on. We're still waiting on the governor to actually release their proposed budget too. There's a lot up in the air, but I can tell you, I've been doing my best, but there is a coalition, they call themselves OCTPET, it's this big acronym for Oregon Community Table for Post-Secondary Education and Training. But it's a coalition of people who care about higher ed. This is school board members, active students, alumni, professors, community college representatives, community-based organizations. We have a coalition beyond just that 5 that have been funded the last few years that are advocating for bills and policies to get through the legislature, even though it's tight. There's also the Oregon Association of like Student Union, who has an entire group too, speaking with the student voice. Right now, we have a group of 5 priorities that those 2 groups have agreed upon, and we've been meeting with legislators the last few weeks during their legislative days to say, hey, we get there's not a lot of money, but if you gotta pick anything, these are the 5. 2 of those 5 relate to funding for us. One is to, instead of one-off funding every year, to make a permanent line item in HEC's budget to be a grant. So instead of lobbying, I can just complete a grant to get this money. That's what we've been trying to do for years, but due to politics, that hasn't quite come through, but we keep getting money. There's a whole separate line item that just says give Oregon Trio Association money. Right? Because we've been able to get in there and be like, hey, there is millions of dollars that come in that you barely have to pay anything for. Like we will keep getting more students, more money if you invest in this. So we'll see if it gets through, but we're doing the work. We're doing our best. I may need to call upon you all to write a letter off your grant time, right? We may have to just do letters of support. I may do a call to ask for students or alum, but this is the chaotic work of influencing politics that feels gross, but can have huge impact. So we've raised a little over $500,000 in non-state funds. Shout out to these people. Also, if these folks would love to come to your events too, right? If you have those celebration or the stuff, a lot of these are either their programs who have provided laptops to the rural schools, or a lot of them are in Portland, but like they would love to send folks, and they have a ton of other community connections too. So we have found a lot of good stuff comes out of working with foundations. Linda.
I'm gonna take just 1 second
Yep.
to ask. Should we email OTAs if we have a graduation on this day, because we don't know who?
Yes, email me, because whether it's state legislators, federal staff, or foundation staff, if you have something going on, I will just invite that whole group so you don't have to do that stuff. But we are constantly applying to grants and hopefully doing more. I've also been super appreciative over the last couple of years. You all have spent your hard-earned grant funds to pay for myself and Robin to come and do lots of stuff. So we are super excited, whether it's helping develop social media campaigns, doing headshots at student events, helping put together videos for like advertisements, your program, writing policy procedures, doing event planning for you so you don't have to, staff development, whatever it is, student workshops. You can pay instead of all these like third-party speakers. You have money you maybe sometimes need to spend for spend down, and we are trying to get revenue. So if the state doesn't fund us, we can you scratch our back, we'll come and do a bunch of stuff on your behalf. But this is the pitch of give us some money that COE does too, that we are also having to do. Lastly, I wanted to update for 2025 membership. We've always just paid for a whole year. We want to align it with your grant year. So we're still going to bill on January for 2025, but it's only going to go through August, so that moving forward, it can align with your actual grant cycle. So it's gonna be prorated. Everything was like 0.15% of the GAN. It's still gonna be that, but I'm just gonna do January through August. So it will be less than last year because you're just basically paying for 8 months of membership and then we'll invoice again in September. Okay, nobody's grabbed a paper form. The last thing we want to do is do a drawing for names.
I just did
I
it.
did
online.
too.
Yeah, so I need people to just tell me
Oh.
on our system. Just raise your hand.
Receive.
My receipt.
And if somebody pulls it up right now and swears to
We're
all
almost
things
there.
holy, they're going to do it and finish it. I will add this to this list. We get 6, you get 1 policy seminar fee paid for, but when they say policy seminar, it's a 3-part paid process. They pay for 1 part of it. So they'll give us like $150 discount. If we ever- Okay, it was those 4, 5. Who am I missing?
I got 6 hands, I think.
Okay, I think we're at 6 because I think Sherilyn's definitely contributed and I believe Jeff has too, so.
Right.
As we leave, before we end the meeting, no Sherilyn, okay.
This is for the $50.
This is the $50 right here, right now, or you can arm wrestle for it. Wait, no, you're, no, discard, we got a late entry. Well, I spelled Linda wrong too, see, it doesn't count. Okay, any others, last minute?
Are we putting Jeff in?
Nah,
No,
he's
or
up.
Sharon?
They've flown them all over the country. Okay, here we go.
You have to be present.
All right, thank you everyone who called in online. If you want to sign up for any committees, if you have any questions, there's a session coming in. Come up to me afterwards to sign up. Meeting adjourned at 11:38. Thank you. I trust.
Figure it out. How did you do it online? Where did you go to? The 16th?